All right, we're back with Bracket Life interviews. I'm joined now by Chuck Frahm. Chuck is the promoter at Shannonville Drags, Windsor Weekend at Grand Bend. He also has, I want to say, a multi-car race team. I'm not sure if he still have the Roadster, but
Can you call it a,
oh, there it is.
can you call it a multi-car?
We got the light now.
Okay, can you call it a multi-car team if they don't all run at the same time?
Yeah, you still own multi-cars.
Okay, then
Yeah.
yes, I have a multi-car race team.
There you go. We'll start off with, I guess, I mean, we talked earlier today, and we've talked over the years. You've worn a lot of hats. You've done a lot of things, run a lot of promotions, most notably Windsor Weekend, which is in its 4th year coming up. You recently took on the venture of running the bracket racing side of Shannonville at the track. But like, what else do you do? Because there's so many different things. Every time I talk to you, there's more that you're involved in the racing or automotive world.
Well, I had the same day job for 43 years. I actually worked for the post office. So everything else I've done has been a side job.
Yeah.
I've run a fairly successful speed shop business for about 30 years. We support all kinds of motorsports, including my friends over there at the Great Lakes Legends Series that are yelling at me.
There's the crowd.
Yeah, we're involved.
No, very much so. The Windsor side's amazing because it's one of the longest running promotions in Ontario. And I want to say it is the longest running promotion in Ontario.
It is. Stratford skipped a COVID year. We did not.
There you go.
We were tied with Stratford
Until
they missed a year.
So, I mean, where did that brainchild come from? How did you come up with that? Or how did that happen?
Well, that was a product of, at the time, Kenny Hebert and I were partnered in a speed shop deal. I actually worked for Kenny. And we wanted to have a customer appreciation day at Grand Bend. And they had set us up with some Windsor classes of our own. And we thought, if 30 or 40 guys show up, this would be cool. It was Friday night, pouring rain, and we'd already teched 95 cars. And we went, well, we need to do something with this. And it just kind of took on a life of its own from there. It's been a continuing thing to improve it, change it, morph it into whatever society wants at that time.
Whatever the marketplace shifts to.
Exactly.
And it's grown to be its own monster. I mean, as you said, it was a joint. I remember when it was kind of the joint weekend, right? And then I distinctly remember the year that was finally like, it's Windsor only. Like, there was so big.
We were 3 cars. Our car count was 3 cars short of the national event that year.
Yeah.
Combined with the regular Grand Bend program, we were like 475 or something entries, and that's when Paul decided that we needed to do our own thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you've done a great job with it. I mean, it's certainly a calendar. Like, if you're out in Western Ontario, I mean, that event's on a calendar to go spectate. There's a lot of great classes that you run, like heads up stuff that you don't even see actually at regular Grand Bend events. No,
we that local bragging rights heads up deal that we do has become a thing of its own. It brings people from town. It's been an interesting thing. We've gone back through it and we've looked at what it's done. It's a big source of family pride. I mean, my kids were 5-6 years old when we started working on this now. And, they're in their 30s now and still coming out, and nephews and relatives and friends and everybody is there. It's a point of pride for us. So we went back and we go to Grand Bend and we look at a regular race day and we go, well, that guy ran the first race at Windsor Weekend, and that guy ran his first race at Windsor Weekend, and kids and juniors that we've watched. Spencer Hyde.
Yep.
Spencer Hyde has probably won a Windsor Weekend trophy in juniors.
Something else for the mantle for him.
And I'll give him credit. He knew who I was right away when I walked up today, so I was kind of happy about that. But
well, Chuck makes an impression. I mean, if there's something I can say when I've talked to people, Chuck makes an impression, and it's almost always good. I'll say that, but you're very memorable, and you've done, and that's a big part of like what you do is that you are that person who's going to go up and you will talk to people. You will, you've talked to people, right? Now, you don't get that a lot with promotions, and I find it's something that's not done as much, but if I want to say you're a man of the people, I don't know if I'm stretching it, but.
Well, we took the Shannonville deal because I always wanted to be the guy who ran the drag strip. So now I can cross that off the list. although not critical, not vocally critical about a lot of things that we like or don't like. We've been given the opportunity to express ourselves by doing things.
Yep.
People are watching what we're doing. They're seeing what we're doing. Some like it, some don't. But we are trying to leave something behind when we're done.
Yep. And that's a good segue into that part, because I was going to bring up Shannonville. Like, that's where, how did that come about for you? Like, I mean, I kind of get the gist that, you know, like you were looking to go, you'd like to say you could promote a track, you've run a track. There's certainly not a large number of tracks available in our marketplace, let alone Ontario. Shannonville's there. How did that kind of come about?
Well, Paul Garrett, a racer who used to race out in our end, had been a regular, moved to Trenton or someplace and was a regular competitor at Shannonville. And when the new ownership took over and then COVID, and the place was struggling, and he messaged me and he says, you know what? He says, you should see if you can make a deal with this guy. Yeah. And we called him up and we were met extremely receptively right from the get-go. And I think it was, you know, there was a lot of talk when we first got there. Oh, you can't do this. The guy doesn't like this. The guy doesn't like drag racing. He doesn't like. It turns out that he didn't know drag racing. And the people who were giving him advice down there were trying to serve themselves, not so much the common good. The place needed somebody who had no friends to come in and push it. And it's worked.
Yeah. And I mean, they've done well. I mean, I know we talked in the early events, I want to say that the bar that you had set for yourself was reasonable, right? And you've certainly exceeded a lot of that reasonable as you moved on. It really came back on board, because the scary part with a track that's closed is you close a track, or at least the program shuts down, you know, those racers can quickly find other places to go or not come back to.
Well, I'll tell you, there is no, I don't want to insult anybody, but I mean, there is no better group of racers than the people that we have at Shannonville right now.
Yeah.
We held a drivers meeting, 65 people showed up and committed to the cause and have been there.
Yeah.
They've showed up, they've supported us. They're friendly and polite. And when you tell them no, they don't pout and run away. And it's been a pleasure to be there.
Yeah. So
it's made the job easier.
Yeah, and that's certainly, like, when you have that type of support, and like even in a core group, doesn't matter the size, it gives you a good reason to get up and get after it in the morning, right? Doesn't matter if it's at home in Windsor, which I still can't, like, the drive you go through to go promote the event, right, from Windsor to Belleville, it's a haul, right? But
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm asleep for most of it, going both ways.
This is back to that professional driver talk. We just fly in, promote a race.
No, actually, I have a guy who make sure that I get to the racetrack and back. And without him, I'd probably be lost. Without Kevin, this deal don't happen.
Well, that's a partnership that's important, right?
I've fallen asleep in Trenton and woken up in Tilbury.
That's something right there.
Yep.
Toronto didn't wake you up, eh?
Nope.
There you go.
He's smooth.
That's even better. That's even better. I think touch on more of the Shannonville. I mean, you're in your second year.
Yep.
There's a lot of big things you've done and are doing there, right? One of the many things, I won't say the biggest one, is that it's got sanctioned. It's traditionally been an outlaw track, and you have brought a sanctioning body to the table this year in the WDRA. Let me talk about that, because I think that's a big thing for there.
Well, the WDRA is, I mean, for one thing, you take an outlaw track and you tell people you're going to bring them a sanctioning body, and they start to get a little scared.
Yeah.
The WDRA is actively pursued us, talked to us, sold us the deal. It's been nothing but a positive thing for us. They don't come in and tell you how to run a racetrack. They don't come in and tell you what classes you have to run. They expect you to do the basics on safety and the things that due diligence that all racetracks should be doing.
Yep.
And, but the thing that sold us is that our little 100 race program has a very easy path to a world championship.
Yep.
For 4 racers.
Yep.
Who want to commit to the deal. And it's not a fancy trophy type world championship either. I mean, the winner in each of my 4 classes is eligible to go to North Carolina.
Yep. They're
going to pay tow money. It's free entry, and it's $20,000 to win the 2 big classes.
Yeah.
So it's not like a second-rate deal.
No, it's a substantial setup, right?
There-
With a lot of, like, you look at the track list. I mean, I think that weighs this a lot more because you look at the like just how big it is. I mean, there are a lot of prestigious tracks in the sense of like where good racers race and do race for points that are part of this system.
Yeah, and the big deal for us, I mean, selling it was, like you said, it's not Bob's drag strip. It's, I mean, the guys who talking me into it, I mean, you know, Scotty Gardner, Royce Miller from MIR. I mean, these guys are, it's an amazing brain trust. And every one of those guys handed me his cell phone number and said, if you have any questions, you got a problem or you want advice on how to do something, call me.
Yeah.
And so far, everybody has picked up the phone.
Yeah. And that's, you don't hear that as much when you talk to people about, you know, some of the other associations that wasn't always the way it worked. Right. And depending on how big you were in, you know, the pond. Right.
And I got to believe that has always been the case. I don't have a lot of, I mean, I had some look at the inner workings of IHRA through Grand Bend and stuff. And I knew people at IHRA who worked there, but this seems to have a different feel to it.
Yeah. Maybe
it comes back and bites us all. My biggest deal with it is that nobody is forced to do anything. If a racer at our track wants to keep coming out to the monthly program and driving his car and having fun, it is business as usual at Shannonville Dragway for him. It is no extra cost.
Yeah.
And it's good that way in that it's adaptable to the people who are interested.
It's not a forced program. I mean, that's, I think, sometimes you see some of these programs and it gets the optics of it getting a little bit confusing. Back to like the sanction, right? Oh my God, here comes the sanction. Oh no, here comes another, you know, points fee. And it's a buy-in system, which, you know, the IHRA is, you know, used for years, right? So what do you believe? Like, I mean, the Eastern Canada has kind of been one of those places that has, I mean, there's a lot of great racers out there. There is a ton of great racers, and they often never had the chance to compete in these type of programs because it's predominantly been something you've seen in Western Ontario, where you got to go to the US for, right? How do you anticipate the response on this when you're able to go to people and say, like, you can now in Eastern Ontario run for a world championship here?
Well, even some of the guys more towards the central and western part, what I find is that I'm having conversations with them and explaining the deal to them. You know, if you've got an NHRA license, if you race Cayuga Super Series and you can afford to run our program at the same time because there's very little conflict this year, WDRA will cross your license over for free for this year. So basically you sign up for my free points program and you take the free crossover license from WDRA and you might be headed to North Carolina in October with $700 in tow money with you.
To run for a world title.
Yeah. And I mean, it's for a guy whose mindset is that way.
Yeah.
It's the way to go. Conversely, a guy who picks and chooses $5,000 to win races, and that's what he wants to do. That's his gig.
Yeah.
But there are different, and you and I have had this discussion. In fact, you know, the whole free points program thing came out of a conversation that you had on your podcast.
Yeah.
And we just see that there's a value there and that there are different strokes for different people. And we're trying to fill a market that we don't think is being filled.
Well, I like that you touched on that because like the points program structure at Shannonville, I was almost messing up my S tracks here. It's a vastly different approach than anyone else has taken. And again, we did discuss that in the podcast. It's often an idea I've thrown out there is that if you don't have a strong program and you know, I've usually used it as an example of tracks that are struggling, not at startups like what you've done, but if you've got nothing, what do you have to lose type mentality to it? But you've grown it very well and it looks like it's stronger. Like it's amazing what a free entry, what you're racing for and what you put on the table. Right?
Well, it's the money that we have posted and guaranteed for this year already is double what last year's money was.
Yeah.
And that's all through sponsor support and guys who just want to be involved. We put sponsor money in and then I donate X amount per tech card per class goes into that pot's money and it varies as it goes.
Yeah.
We pay 3 spots. Every class is going to pay $1,000 this year minimum.
Yeah. Like just I mean, unheard of when you look at, because other programs are, it was expensive, but I mean, there's quite a bit of entry to get that same type of purse, right? And it's like, yeah, just, I need a piece of paper signed with your name on it and a car number, and you're racing for it.
And last year, we didn't even require that.
Yeah.
I automatically put you into points if you went down the drag strip. This year, I need you to sign up because of the WDRA requirement.
Yes.
And that is the other kick to the World Championship program is prior to your first race, you have to be a WDRA member.
Yeah.
And like I said, take a roll at it, see what happens.
It's a small investment.
But guys we talk to, their mindset isn't going there yet. So basically, we're selling it door to door like we do everything else.
Yeah.
I'm emailing racers. I'm talking to guys here today and explaining, how it works. And they're going, really? No, there's got to be a catch. No, there's no catch there.
There always feels like there's a catch. That's where these things, like, that's usually it is in racing. There's always a little catch, right?
Nope,
but
there is no catch. It is a legitimate deal, and I mean, the race pays $20,000 American in box and no box.
Yeah,
$10,000 in sportsman and junior.
So let's touch on a couple other things at Shannonville, because I think you're doing something I really love, and more to do with the updates as well, right?
Yep.
The layout of the track's a little bit difficult because of just how it's set up, right?
Yep.
So the ticket booth being what I'm kind of going at here is, back at the front where you just drove away from. I love technology. I love technological solutions to problems that, can be served by it. You guys have bought into an app program at Shannonville this year. So maybe you could tell us a bit about that and how that works with your ET slips and everything else.
It's actually a Canadian developed app. The guy's just from up the road here near Ottawa. He test bedded it at Naperville, and he's got 40 some odd tracks using it now.
Bradenton, I know
that North Florida's using it.
North Florida.
There's some big tracks that are using it.
A lot. Yep.
PDRA is using it.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
It's basically your time slip comes up on your phone.
Yep.
And one of the challenges we faced with it when we first heard about it is, well, what about, we run a nostalgia class. We are one of the few tracks that runs a full-time nostalgia class. We have some older racers. We have some guys with some older thinking. Well, I don't have a phone. Does that mean I can't race? Guys, we'll help you out.
Yeah, this isn't the end all be all. The ticket still exists. It's just
the ticket exists. You may have to get the information from a friend. Worst case, Kevin will write you out a time slip by hand.
Yeah.
And it was hard to get the guys to settle down when they first heard about it, but we went through this with electronic insurance waivers last year too. It's new.
Yeah.
The first week we were there, I think Kevin probably did 30 or 40 waivers for guys. By the end of the season, those guys weren't a problem anymore. It had been solved.
You work through it, right?
Yeah. And like anything, change affects them.
Yeah. And that's a problem with sometimes with the sport. And in general, I said, this isn't specific, is that
oh no, it's not just this sport, it's life.
Yep. Yep.
And but this is a program that genuinely, the system that we use now where there's no return road ET shack, so you park your car and you go get a slip, is 100% inconvenient for 100% of the racers. So now it's 90% convenient. And I got 10% of the people that we just have to give our personal touch to, which we don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's part of what we sell.
And that's why I like that. I think this is something you need to see in the sport more a broad topic, but I mean, the technological advancements that are going to help us with stuff, right? Make stuff easier. And in this particular case, it takes a physical issue and eliminates it now. I mean, there's no need for capital investment to go deal with this type of stuff. You've solved this with, the cell phone, right?
Yep.
So with that said, we're getting a little bit low on time.
Yep.
So I'm going to jump to the end here on the round robin. No one gets away from this. I need you in on this as well.
Okay.
So we're going to hot lap through this one. I know it's been a few years since you raced, so this can be generic to your crew taste. But favorite winter circle beverage?
Coors Light.
Most underrated late night track dinner food? Underrated.
This is something we like that most people don't think about. Cold pizza seems to be, that's okay.
That can be underrated, I'll be honest.
You know what? It's got to be hot dogs.
This is the shock for me because it's been like 3 different times hot dogs has come up and they're not even on my radar. But this is why they're underrated and this is what we're calling it. Favorite Canadian drag racer, past or present?
Gordy Bonin.
240 Gordy.
Yep.
There you go. I like that. Name a class in drag racing you don't currently race in, Or I'll add this in the promotional that you've never promoted that you would love a chance to either run in or promote. I'll leave that open.
Wow.
Chuck Frahm is speechless. I'm not sure if this is rarity.
I personally, super stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the small letter cars, maybe B or C.
Race or promote? Race? Race? Okay. Yep. I'm with you on that one. Number one, well, your years on the road here, or months on the road going back and forth, you should tie in this one. Number one place to stop for food when traveling to or from the race?
Number one place to stop?
Yeah. Favorite go-to stop?
It's basically whatever comes out of the fridge that Jackie makes me.
On the travel?
On road, yep.
Okay, I'm good with that. I did say cheese sandwiches out of the fridge was an option, and I'm good with that too. What would you rather win, an NHRA World Championship or the OG $1 million bracket race?
I lean towards an NHRA World Championship.
See, I like that because this is a tough one for me too, and I've thought about that. The roots in the NHRA side, like there's a prestigiousness. Mind you, I could do a lot with $400, $500, or $1 million in my bank account. Longest distance you or someone in your crew has ever dragged a battery charger?
10 feet.
10. Did the cord run out?
Yep.
Okay. Favorite racing movie? I need a quote from it to prove you've actually watched it.
My favorite racing movie is Grand Prix with Jim Gardner, but I really can't give you a quote from it.
Fair enough. That's all right. I was just giving people an out on all the good Talladega Night quotes to be able to.
I've never seen Talladega Nights.
No, see, there you go. Now you got something for the movie list.
I've never seen Days of Thunder.
I'm not sure what to think about that. That's something right there. Need to add that to the list. Best promoter, drag racing promoter in history is who?
Drag racing as a competitive sport or as a spectator appeal? It falls into two groups.
I want to call it generic, but maybe I'll make this even harder. Both.
I'll give you one of each.
Sure.
Bill Bader Jr. from Norwalk.
Which category?
A legitimate race promoter.
Okay.
Rich Christensen from Pinks.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. We sat at Milan Dragway one day with 16,000 other people and on a $35 ticket to watch bracket cars time trial for a television camera. And I went, this guy is a freaking genius.
Fair enough. I feel like when you said Bill Bader, either column could have fit in for him, to be honest with you.
And Bader knows how to do both.
Yeah, that's valid. But
I mean, when it comes to overall operation and promoted deal, I think Bill is number one. But Rich Christensen from Pinks was a genius.
Fair enough. Last question. You can have any sponsor in the world for your track. The terms of the deal are you get a never-ending supply of what they sell. Who are you going with? What's on the track?
I get a sponsor
name?
for the track. And we get a lifetime supply of it.
Either there's genius going to come out here on a business savviness, or it's going to be one of those things where it's like, that's just a smart move.
My problem is that like all I can think of is somebody who's going to give us beer or food. And, but I know there's got to be from a business standpoint, there's got to be a better answer, right?
There's no rhyme or reason to this.
Petro-Canada.
I'm good with that. Chuck, I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for being up here, going through this with us.
Thanks for having us.
We will. We're going to get you on the Bracket Life show. I want to talk about Shannonville in depth more. I want to talk about WDRA because I think those are both, key things when you talk about for Ontario bracket racing.
Yep.
Thank you very much for doing the interview today.
Not a problem.
And we'll see you soon.
Okay. See you.
All right. Thank you.